Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Emmanuel, and in this video we'll be talking about Sublime Text. As I mentioned in the intro lesson, at the beginning we're going to be using Adobe brackets, but later on the line we'll move to Sublime Text. I planned it to be later in the course, but I decided that now would be a better time to do that, just because it's awesome and I think you need to try it out. Now, let's go through the whole installation process. You can go on sublimetext.com, and then you have this big download for Windows button. In your case, it might be download for Mac or for Linux. Probably for Linux, you might need to use more of the command line, but if you're on Linux, then you already know what to do. I would usually go for the second version, but I already have that installed on my computer with everything else, so I'm just going to download the Sublime 3 beta for Windows on 64-bit because I have over 4 gigabytes, and of course I have a 64-bit operating system. So let's just leave everything by default. It just went crazy fast, and I'm going to start it up. Now, as I mentioned before, Sublime Text is free, but you won't be registered. So you can also, of course, buy it for $70. But fortunately enough, the great developers of Sublime Text decided that you're only going to get a pop-up once in a while. And it's going to say buy now or cancel, and you can just click on escape. So, Sublime Text, a minimal, Python-based, extremely fast text editor. The reason why it's great and why I use it is because it has a lot of modules available. So a lot of modules or plugins. In Sublime, they're called packages. It has a lot of great keyboard shortcuts, which you have to start loving. And it has a minimal interface, and again, it's really fast. So let's go over the interface just a little bit. You don't really need to know that much to get started in it. The main edit area, some basic information on the bottom, tab sizes, so basically when you hit the tab button to indent your code. And this is an interesting one, plain text right here in the bottom. You can quickly select what kind of syntax coloring would you like this specific file to be. So if I just make a new file, it's an empty file, it's not even saved, and if I know that I want to write, for example, some CSS, I would click on the bottom, go on CSS, and then when I start writing like class, I'm going to have the CSS syntax. You can see it's nicely colored. If I would have put it on, let's say, Lua, you see that this is going to be white, so it doesn't look good. And if I continue writing something like color is blue, then everything's just white because it's not recognized. But if I change it to CSS, then I get the CSS color hinting. So that's about it for the interface. Really simple. There are a lot more quirks and things to learn about Sublime, but we'll see them as they go in all the different videos. But one important thing that I want you to do is, after you've installed it, is go on this website, sublime.wbond.net, and if you have, and the main page is going to look like this. You click on Install Now, and then if you have the third version of Sublime Text, you take this code and then you copy it. If you have the second version, you take this other code. Then you go back to your Sublime and press Control and that button next to the one on your keyboard. I don't know for sure how is it called. I think it was some weird name like back quote or some kind of accent, but that button next to your one, press Control or Command, and then you get this console. You're probably not going to get all this code. This is because I've been messing around with the third version of Sublime, but you just paste the code they have copied from this website previously, hit enter, wait for it to finish, which is going to take a few seconds, and then close. So it's done now. You close it up, then you open Sublime Text again, and then visually absolutely nothing has happened. But if we press Ctrl-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P and we write install, if we get this install package text, then it means everything's okay. I'll hit enter, you can click on it as well, and what you get here is a list of all the current packages or modules or plugins, however you want to call them, for Sublime. Now, there are hundreds of them, maybe even thousands. Most of them are really great, but the one that we're going to be using a lot is called Emmet. Just Emmet. Maybe you've heard of it as Zen Coding. It changed its name a few years back, and we're just going to install that one. Now on the bottom here, if you notice before I said anything, it just wrote installing, loading, and so on. So this is the area where you're going to get some information about some activity that's happening in Sublime. Now they're saying please restart the editor, so you need to do that, and you might need to do that a few times. Now I want to show you two other extra packages. They're not mandatory in any way, but I would just like for you to know about them. One is called SFTP, which is a FTP plugin, of course, and it allows you to easily make a FTP client out of Sublime Text, and it has really cool features like upload on save and so on. So when you save your document, it's automatically going to be uploaded to the server that you specify. And the other one, the other really great package that I wanted to recommend to you is Alignment. Not everybody agrees with me or having your CSS or code clean and aligned, but I like it. I would recommend that you do the same. Use Alignment for your code, and I'm going to show you later on what Alignment does, because first we need to check out Emmet. So if we write a class, let's say class name is going to have some properties. For example, I know that I will want to have a position. So after a time they write CSS, you get lazy and you don't want to write complete position and then comma, value, and so on. So you can write just POS, and then it's going to recognize what you want to do with these shortcuts, also called snippets. That's what Emmet is. It's a big snippet library. So I write POS, I hit tab or enter, and then I'm going to get the default value of relative. And that means most of the times you want to put it as relative. If not, you can put it as absolute. If I want to define a font size, I could just say FZ from font size, and then I can hit tab or enter, and then I can write 24 pixels or whatever other value I want it to be. So what Emmet does is makes you write faster CSS, and sometimes more correctly, because it can happen they want to write maybe something animation, and then you write animation, blah. That could also be an argument in favor, but if you write it that bad and you don't realize it, then you should exercise it more. Now let's add some more values. Let's say we want to add a transform. Don't worry, we'll be checking out transform later on. If I want to write a value, something like translate x 50 pixels. Now the first thing that you're going to see is that we have the cursor blinking on many lines, and if you press backspace, if I press backspace, then I can edit all the lines. This is another one of the great features in the Sublime Text that Sublime Text has, that not many other editors have, and that is multi-line editing. And trust me, this is a lifesaver, or at least a definite time saver. Because sometimes it happens that you need to edit many lines with the same code, and this totally saves you. But as you can see, as you can clearly see in this example, if I realize that I don't want to translate, I can just you know, say rotate on X, and it's not going to be pixels, it's going to be degrees. But you've seen how quickly that was done with multi-line editing. And now back to the reason why I wanted you to install the alignment plugin is that you can do something like this. After you've installed it, you can press Ctrl-Alt-A, and then on the place where you had the cursor in those many lines, it's going to create this well, indenting that makes it straight. So this is going to be helpful when, for example, you want to, okay, I don't want to make a rotate, I want to do a transform back. I could just hover my mouse here, and then I press the middle mouse button. I find that the easiest in these kind of cases, and then I just hold it down and go down until the lines that I want to edit, and then with Control Shift right arrow I can select. That's how I'm selecting in pieces, by the way, by pressing Control Shift left arrow or right arrow. And if you press Shift left arrow right arrow, it's going to select character by character. So now that's a quick way of selecting something which is repetitive and you need to change. Transform, and let's just write 40 pixels for now. This is not going to be used anywhere, so it doesn't matter if it's the most correct piece of code. So definitely install, to recap, definitely install Sublime Text, and you need to have Emmet or Zen coding. It's going to save you in the long run a lot of time. Maybe at the beginning, well, I do think at the beginning you should write these by hand so you get used to their names, and after you've used them a while, go with the shortcuts. Time saver. Don't forget about the multi-line editing, middle mouse button, or Control-Alt down arrow or up arrow. And with the plugins that I just showed you, you can interestingly align your CSS code or any other kind of code. It doesn't really matter. So these are going to be lifesavers in the long run, and let's dig our teeth into some of the visual properties in CSS.